They ate the sandy food around here and ended up with horrible tooth pain. We're going to be able to understand the pain that they went through in their lives as well. Will one of you fight me? Israelites, if you win, the Philistines will be your slaves. Imagine a tomb that has been sealed for thousands of years, hiding one of history's greatest men. Today, scientists have made an incredible breakthrough unlocking the tomb of Goliath, the giant of biblical stories. But what secrets lie hidden in this ancient burial? What can we learn about the mighty warrior who faced David? Stay tuned to dive into this unprecedented discovery and explore the mysteries that have been locked away for millennia. A story that has inspired countless people, the young and humble David defeats Goliath, the gigantic Philistine giant, in a stunning turn of events, even using Goliath's own sword to land the final blow. While the story excites many, it has also sparked curiosity among historians and scientists for centuries. One burning question remains: where was Goliath buried? Now, an unprecedented discovery has revealed surprising details about the giant's final resting place. Could this be Goliath's skull? So, where was Goliath really buried, and why is this new discovery so surprising? Stay tuned to uncover the truth behind the mythical giant's burial. Goliath, a figure from biblical lore, is a symbol of the triumph of the underdog and has captivated imaginations for generations. But who was this giant Philistine really, and what shaped the life of the man who died at the hands of humble shepherd David? To truly understand Goliath, we must go beyond the dramatic duel and explore his origins. This journey takes us through ancient history, combining archaeological discoveries, historical records, and biblical accounts to piece together the story of his early life. Goliath belonged to the Philistines, a fascinating and complex group of people who originated in the Aegean region. They eventually settled in the coastal areas of Canaan, bringing with them advanced technologies, unique pottery styles, and a passion for architecture and social evolution. The world in which Goliath grew up was vibrant and cosmopolitan, thriving on maritime trade and cultural exchange. Of the 5 major Philistine cities, Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath is believed to have been Goliath's home. Archaeological evidence suggests that these cities were bustling centers of activity, offering a glimpse into the environment that shaped the young giant. Gath, which is often associated with Goliath, was a thriving center of activity and innovation in its time. The city stood as a formidable fortress with impressive fortifications, grand temples, and magnificent palaces. Growing up in such a dynamic environment, Goliath would have been immersed in a society that placed great value on military prowess, religious devotion, and social hierarchy. The Philistines were renowned for their military prowess, and it was within this warrior culture that Goliath's early life developed. From a young age, he would have been trained in the art of war, mastering the use of weapons and armor. Scientific evidence points to a society that was always prepared for conflict, and Goliath, with his extraordinary stature, must have been an exceptional individual. His unique physical characteristics likely led to rigorous training that prepared him to serve as one of the elite warriors or champions of his people, a man behind whom they could unite in battle. Culturally, Goliath's upbringing would have been rich and diverse. The Philistines worshipped a pantheon of gods, including Dagon, Ashtoreth, and Baal. Religious rituals and ceremonies were central to daily life, and Goliath would have participated in these from an early age. Through these experiences, he would have absorbed the myths, legends, and values that shaped Philistine society. Archaeological discoveries, such as elaborate religious artifacts and temple complexes, reveal a community where faith was deeply woven into the fabric of social and political life. Philistine cities like Gath boasted a complex social structure, with artisans, traders, and warriors forming a vibrant and interconnected society. Goliath's family, given his eventual rise as a champion, was likely highly respected within this hierarchy. His formative years would have included interactions with skilled craftsmen, giving him exposure to the Philistines' celebrated expertise in metalwork, pottery, and weaving. These trades were not just essential to the economy but also central to the cultural identity of the Philistines. The Philistines' maritime connections with other civilizations would have exposed Goliath to a broader worldview, extending far beyond the walls of his city. These interactions likely influenced his upbringing and the cultural richness of his society. When it came to education, practicality was key. In a society like Gath, education aimed to prepare young men for their societal roles. For Goliath, this would have included mastering the use of weapons and armor, understanding battle tactics, leadership, and possibly even diplomacy. The frequent conflicts between the Philistines and neighboring tribes, including the Israelites, required not just physical might but also strategic thinking. Goliath's remarkable size and strength were likely supported by a robust diet and physical conditioning. The fertile lands of Philistine territory provided an abundance of grains, fruits, vegetables, and meats, which, combined with rigorous training, contributed to his legendary physique. Archaeological findings reveal that the Philistines enjoyed a diverse and nutritious diet, enhancing their health and growth. Community life in Gath would have offered Goliath a wealth of experiences, from participating in communal feasts and celebrations to competing in sports and games that honed his physical abilities. These activities helped shape his identity and pride in his people. His early exposure to his community's achievements and aspirations likely influenced his worldview and ambitions. Interestingly, there are various theories about Goliath's origins. Some scholars suggest he may have been a descendant of the Nephilim, a group described in biblical texts as the offspring of the sons of God and human women. This theory connects Goliath's extraordinary size and strength to the Anakites, a subset of the Nephilim who were said to have survived in Gath after the Israelites failed to eliminate them during their conquest of the Promised Land. Another theory posits that Goliath's origins lie with the Philistines, believed to be settlers from the Aegean region, possibly Greece. This could explain the non-Semitic etymology of the name Goliath, which may relate to Aliats, a name recorded by Herodotus for a Lydian king who ruled between 619 and 560 BCE. Modern scholars also debate Goliath's role in the biblical narrative. Some point to 2 Samuel 21 verse 19, where Elhanan, son of Jair, is credited with slaying Goliath the Gittite, suggesting that Goliath might have been a member of a distinct group of ancient giants or possessed unique characteristics within Philistine civilization. Archaeological discoveries have shed light on Gath, the ancient Philistine city traditionally associated with Goliath. Recent findings from the Tel Esafi/Gath Archaeological Project, led by Professor Aaron Meir of Bar-Ilan University, uncovered monumental architecture from the 11th century BC, the era of the legendary battle between David and Goliath. These discoveries challenge previous assumptions that Gath's peak occurred in the 9th and 10th centuries BCE when it was destroyed by the Aramean king Hazael. Notably, the remains of the 11th century city are far larger and more impressive than those of later periods, suggesting that Gath was a major center of power during Goliath's time. These findings provide a fascinating glimpse into the city's grandeur and its significance within Philistine civilization. The story of Goliath is well known, but there are fascinating details often overlooked. Goliath was an imposing figure, equipped with formidable armor and weaponry. He wore a bronze helmet and a coat of mail weighing an astounding 125 pounds. His legs were protected by bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung across his back. According to the Hebrew text of the Bible, Goliath stood over 9 feet tall, though some Greek manuscripts suggest a height of 6 feet 9 inches. The craftsmanship of Goliath's gear was as impressive as its size. His coat of mail, weighing 5,000 shekels of bronze, was likely constructed of interlocking bronze scales, providing exceptional protection against swords and spears. His bronze helmet not only served as protection but also symbolized his might and status on the battlefield. David recounted how he had killed lions and bears while protecting his sheep, believing that the same God who rescued him then would also grant him victory over the Philistine. Reluctantly, Saul agreed and offered David his armor and sword. However, David found them too heavy and cumbersome. To everyone's surprise, he removed the armor, selected 5 smooth stones from a stream, placed them in his shepherd's bag, and took only his sling as he approached Goliath. Goliath mocked David for coming at him with a stick and cursed him by his gods. Undeterred, David boldly declared that he came in the name of the Lord of Heaven's armies, the God of Israel whom Goliath had defied. He proclaimed that God would grant him victory, allowing him to defeat Goliath, cut off his head, and feed his body to the birds and wild animals. David emphasized that the battle was the Lord's and that victory would demonstrate to the world that God saves not with sword or spear but by his power alone. As Goliath advanced, David ran toward him, slinging one of the stones, which struck Goliath in the forehead, sinking into his skull. The giant fell face down to the ground, lifeless. David then took Goliath's sword and beheaded him. Seeing their champion defeated, the Philistines fled in terror. The Israelites pursued and defeated them, inflicting a massive slaughter. David later brought Goliath's head to Jerusalem and kept his weapons in his tent. In the biblical narrative, Goliath symbolizes the pride and strength of the Philistines, enemies of Israel, and his defeat was a testament to faith in God. But what happened to the slain giants remains. One fascinating theory, known as the Calvary theory, suggests a connection between the site of David's victory and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. According to this theory, the place where Jesus was crucified, Golgotha or Calvary, was also where David buried Goliath's head after their battle. The name Golgotha means place of the skull in Aramaic, and its Latin equivalent, Calvarius, gives us the English word Calvary. Some believe the site was named for its skull-like shape, while others suggest it was a common execution site where skulls were left unburied. However, a third possibility ties the name to Goliath's skull, which David might have buried there after the battle. The biblical account in 1 Samuel 17 recounts how David killed Goliath with a sling and a single stone, then used Goliath's sword to decapitate him. The Philistines fled in terror, and the Israelites secured a great victory. But the narrative also mentions that David took Goliath's head, a detail that adds weight to the Calvary theory. According to 1 Samuel 17 verse 54, David took Goliath's head and brought it to Jerusalem while placing the Philistines' armor in his tent. But why did David take Goliath's head to Jerusalem, a city not yet under Israelite control and still occupied by the Jebusites? One possible reason is that David intended to display the head as a trophy symbolizing God's power and deliverance. Another explanation is that David may have sought to bury it in a sacred location, honoring God and possibly fulfilling a prophecy. Jewish traditions suggest that Jerusalem was the site where Adam, the first human, was both created and buried. Some scholars, including Origen of Alexandria, a 3rd-century Christian theologian, proposed that Golgotha, the place of the skull, was where Adam's skull was buried. David might have buried Goliath's head there as a symbolic gesture of overcoming humanity's and God's enemy. This connection deepens when considering the biblical parallels between David and Jesus. Both are portrayed as anointed kings of Israel and sons of God. The genealogies in Matthew 1 and Luke 3 trace Jesus' lineage back to David, highlighting his royal and messianic heritage. Prophecies in 2 Samuel 7 and Psalm 89 promised that God would establish David's throne and kingdom forever, with his descendant reigning as an eternal king. Christians believe Jesus fulfilled these prophecies as the Christ, the Anointed One, born in Bethlehem, David's city, and reigning over a spiritual kingdom that transcends earthly realms. The theory also ties into the significance of Jesus' crucifixion. According to the Gospels, Jesus was executed on a hill outside Jerusalem called Golgotha or Calvary. The name means place of the skull, possibly referencing its shape, its use as an execution site, or the burial of Adam's or Goliath's skull. Christians believe Jesus' death on the cross symbolized the ultimate victory over sin and death. Just as David defeated Goliath, Jesus is seen as the greater son of David, conquering the enemies of God and humanity through his sacrifice. Another related theory, the Goliath skeleton theory, has been discussed for decades. This theory revolves around the discovery of unusually large skeletal remains believed by some to belong to the giants mentioned in historical texts, folklore, and religious scripture. Proponents suggest these findings could provide evidence for the existence of figures like Goliath, lending new dimensions to the ancient narrative. The discovery of unusually large skeletal remains from around the world has sparked theories suggesting that beings of extraordinary size once roamed the earth. Proponents of this idea, often referred to as the Goliath skeleton theory,